How to start a small real estate business? We're going to answer that question in this video. Okay, let's rock. Let's talk about how you can start a small real estate business. Well, heck, why not start a big one, right? No, let's start small. We got to start everywhere. So real estate's just like any business. You simply need to go online and you're going to need to form an entity. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest reasons you're going to want to form something and not buy real estate under your own name is really for liability reasons. You know, if something was to happen, you really don't want to get sued personally. You know, you want to have something like an LLC, a limited liability company, to help you out with, you know, protecting that asset and protecting your personal assets. So what you need to do is go to your Secretary of State's website and form something like an LLC. Make sure you talk with your CPA. Your CPA is going to give you the best advice based off like your taxes and stuff like that they think you should form. And when you're going through the process, it's going to ask you like the primary function or purpose of that business that you're registering, and you'll put real estate. So that's what you'll do. And once you go through the process, and let's just assume that you're going to do an LLC, you set up your LLC through the online process. And again, you can have your CPA walk you through it, help you out, or they could even do it for you. You'll have this articles of organization, which is like a certificate, or it's articles of incorporation, depends on the state and what it is. But those articles basically show that you've got a legally formed entity, right? And it'll probably have like a business entity ID number, something like that, like a business number, something like that. And that's your basic document that shows that you're a legit business, fully legit, registered with the state, and you'll pay, like if you're an LLC, like an annual fee usually every single year to show that you're active and in good standing and things like that. Now, once you form your basic, and I'm using the LLC as an example, once you form your basic LLC, you're gonna need to really have an EIN number specific to that business. You know, you could theoretically use your own social security number. You could use that, or you could use, let's say you have another business, you know, you could technically, potentially use that. I would highly not recommend doing that. I'm sure your CPA is gonna say, no, don't do that. You're gonna need an EIN number, an employment identification number. It's just something that's registered with the IRS that shows that you're, you know, paying taxes, keeping records, things like that. It's basically your social security number for your real estate business. You're gonna need that. And then you're gonna use that and your articles that we talked about earlier, that document, you're gonna take that to the bank and you're gonna open up a checking account for your real estate business. And you're obviously gonna need that, right? So when you're buying your real estate, when you're doing repairs, when you're paying for your insurance and your taxes and all that, you're gonna need some kind of account to draw those funds out of. And when you're getting your rent checks, if you're doing rentals or something like that, somewhere to deposit the money into and things like that. Now the bank might also ask you for an operating agreement, which the operating agreement is basically the rules of your business. Like who has the power to make decisions? Who has the power to borrow money, to open up a bank account, to go lease a car, whatever it is. Those are your operating agreement terms, right? So get with an attorney, find a good lawyer that can set that up for you. That's relatively good. I mean, you want to have a good attorney that's relatively inexpensive, right? You don't want to spend like $5,000 or $10,000 on an operating agreement. You totally could, because your attorney's probably going to bill by the hour. But most of them have like a basic template that they use. If they're good and they do a lot of these, they've got a basic template and they can just, you know, tweak a few paragraphs, or you might bring up something and say, let's say you have a partnership, you might bring up something and say, hey, me and my partner, you know, we want to talk about what would happen if one of us wanted to get out. So you would have like buy-sell clauses, and heaven forbid, what happened if one of you passed away? What does the death clauses read? Like, how does the ownership transfer? Does it go to their spouse? Do you have an option to buy it? Like, there's a lot of things that you need to set up. So you need to get that operating agreement. That is imperative. I'm telling you, absolutely necessary to set up. The bank will probably require that as well in order for you to set up that bank account. So once you get that all set up, you got your article set up, you got your EIN number specifically for your real estate business, you got your bank account set up, you got your operating agreement. That's your basics. You're fully legit. You're ready to rock and roll. So now, depending on what you want to do you want to do rentals? Or you want to be a flipper where you buy and sell houses, you buy them cheap, fix them up, sell them, you know, just go on to the next house? That's entirely up to you. So all the work that's going to be put into making the money now is going to just fall on your back. You've already set the business up. Now let's talk about real estate and rentals, flipping versus, you know, just because we're on the topic of real estate, let's talk about flipping versus rentals in particular. So if you're going to get into this business, I've had a couple people tell me, that if they're going to be like, you're starting out small, but, as you start making money, you say, hey, I bought one house and I flipped it. I want to buy a second. Or I bought one rental and I'm doing really good. I want to buy a second now because I can afford a second. So there's that argument that you have about, do you need to set up a separate real estate business, a separate entity for each location that you have if it's residential? And what about if it's commercial? So let's talk about that for a second. So if you're residential, I've been told, and this was coming from a bank, and my attorney kind of confirmed, he said, you can do whatever you want. He said, well, if you're buying a lot of cheaper properties, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, $100,000 properties, it might not make sense to have a separate entity for every single property. You might want to just have one LLC, right? One legal form entity, one business for your flips, the real estate that you're buying and selling, and you might want to have a separate one for your rentals. And so you would basically have two businesses for your residential. Now, if you get into commercial real estate, what I've done is I open up a separate business, a separate real estate company for each location because they're expensive pieces of property, right? I might be able to buy 20 or 30 residential homes for the price of like one residential center, right? One shopping center, one building or something like that. So for asset protection, and I was advised this by an attorney many years back, is for asset protection, he highly recommended that I form a separate LLC for each commercial property. So residential, again, it's up to you. You've got to get with your team, right? Your CPA, your lawyer, your attorney, right? Your partner, you got to get with your team. And you got to decide what's best for you guys. I mean, there's no exact science. And the bottom line is, if you're going to get sued someday for something, maybe plan ahead and see, how do I protect myself the most against a potential lawsuit if somebody got hurt or somebody sued because, there was something wrong with the house and that affected them or something like that. You know how the world is. There's a million different possibilities and you just want to protect yourself. So understand when you're starting your business, it's like I always use the example of a pilot wanting to land an airplane. A pilot doesn't just land an airplane. From the time they take off to the time they're in the air, they already know that they're going to land in what city, at least what's planned. And so they've already planned their landing, right? So they're thinking ahead, they're planning ahead. So when you're going to start a real estate business, make sure that you've got a good business plan. Like get on paper, write down everything, put the pluses, the minuses, what are the big risks? I always look at the risks. That's what I care about is, what can bankrupt me? What can make me go out of business? What can make me lose my life savings? What if this happens? And make sure that the risks don't outweigh the rewards. You want to make sure you're doing well long-term. So just get everything down on paper and make sure when you're going to get into real estate that you're cautious about not getting in over your head, right? Make sure you're not getting into a piece of property that's going to need way more in repairs than you can afford, or it's going to have environmental problems that you didn't see. And oh my gosh, now you got to spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix some issue that was there. So you might want to look into maybe getting like an environmental test, things like that. So just make sure you're, getting online, looking for potential problems that can arise when you're getting into the real estate business. It's a constant learning business. You'll make a mistake, you'll learn from it, it'll cost you some money. That's okay. It happens like that to the best of us. I mean, every one of us is going through it. But the more friends in real estate you can align yourself with, see if you can get into like a mastermind group of other people that are into real estate. And if you get with, say, the Chamber of Commerce, I mean, you don't see a ton of developers and stuff like that showing up there, but try to find organizations for developers and other real estate owners where you can collaborate together so you guys are talking about what's working or what nightmare happened, what scenario happened over here, and you're like, wow, I didn't ever think of that. I better plan ahead, maybe get some additional insurance, right, on my insurance policy to cover me for that if that was to happen. So these are the things you got to think about, right? Making sure you have flood insurance and earthquake insurance and tornado insurance and stuff, so get with your insurance agent and ask them all the possible things that can go wrong. I'm not saying buy all of it, but just at least look at it and see what's realistic and what you want to pay for it, right? So anyway, hopefully I've shed some insight in addition to giving you the information on how to start a real estate business, how to start a small one. Let's start small and work our way up. That's the best way to do it. And if you have any questions, always please feel free to comment. I'll get to your comments as soon as possible. And if you like this video, please click the like button, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe. I love helping out anybody that I can with business. And remember, in life, in personal, in business, it doesn't matter what it is. It's never easy for everybody throughout the course of your entire life. No matter how hard it gets, never give up, push hard, keep pushing, and be the hustler.